Hi everyone, welcome to the Simple Art at Home Summer Camp Art Series with me, Laura Houston. Get your art supplies ready because together we will get creative, learn about art, and have some fun along the way. I'll meet you at the art table. Okay, this is part one of the intermediate lesson called Silly Monsters. Are you ready to make some silly monsters? You will need a piece of paper. It can really be any size. The one that I'm using is 12 inches by 12 inches square. You'll want a pencil with a good eraser for today, and if you have a black crayon or a black pen, that would be great too. So I am going to start. Oh, one more thing. If you're somebody like me who likes to be particular about straight lines, you might want a straight edge, but it's optional. I'm going to set my extra papers aside. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to divide my paper into 4 sections, and I'm not going to make it perfect as in the size of each section. I'm just going to kind of eyeball this here. So we have just roughly 4 sections. And like I said, you don't need to use a straight edge. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use a black crayon and just make that darker so that you can see it. 1, 2. I like using pencil first because that way I can always erase if I need to. So when I sketch my monsters, I will use pencil first. Okay, so why don't we start with my favorite, this guy. He's up close, right there in our faces. Let me hold that up so you can see him. He's like, "Arr," kind of like an angry monster. So since he kind of seems angry, I'm gonna draw his fur like with jagged lines, something like this. Maybe down to his shoulders there. And there's no wrong way. Like, you can make any monster that you want. They don't have to look like this. You can give them 3 eyeballs or 1 eye. I'm going to try to draw a variety to show you. Today we'll do the drawing in part 1, and in part 2 we will color them in. But today we're just focusing on sketching and drawing. If you want to write names on them, you can. If you want to add feelings like mad, silly, happy, or this would be happy, you can if you want to. So let's start with his big forehead eyebrow. He's got like 1 big eyebrow. I'm gonna kind of tilt my paper here. And let's give him some eyes that they're kind of like half circles that come out from that big monobrow up there. I left a little bit of white there. Let's see if that'll show. I'll move my hand out of the way in a second. Okay, yeah, I left a little white there in the center, and I'm not even gonna put a nose on him. He doesn't even need a nose. I'm gonna do a downturned mouth with 2 bigger teeth on the end, and then some smaller teeth coming out here. All right, there's that guy. And we've warmed up with him. He's easier. Why don't we move on to this interesting creature? I'm gonna definitely start with my pencil. Okay, so with the eyes, I'm gonna start near the top of the square because you gotta leave room for the body. Maybe we'll do this. Let me just do a quick sketch, like a circle area, and you can do this too. You can always erase, but we need to know where the body's gonna be. So that could be the body. And so we'd want one eye like up here and another eye kind of up here. Okay, so draw one of the eyes up here. And he kind of has a lid that's off to the side. And then again, we can put a little white center so it kind of shows the glisten in the black eye there. And then we can draw another little eye. And they don't have to be perfect. They can be different sizes. That's fun too. If you draw monster eyes that are different sizes. I'll move my hand out of the way here in a second so you can see. Now I still have to draw the larger ring around the eye, but we want something to kind of come up here, like something will come up here like this. And we'll have another little kind of monster tube leading to the eye from there. And this will be a little bit different than my other one, but that's okay. I'm gonna have something going, that's like the eyes sitting inside of that holder. Monsters are fun, and there's no wrong way. That's why I like these. Notice I'm just sketching really lightly with my pencil. Okay, and maybe I'll do the outer edge with my darker pen here. I like how that looks. And I'm going to connect them with a little curve. And let me sketch his floppy arms. I don't know if they're arms or if they're flippers or what, but they're going to kind of come off over here on the side. There's something that hang down. We could, you know, I made these look like flippers, but you could even make them look like wings. Wouldn't that be interesting? Like I put the little like feather tips on them. I can kind of do wing tips. And then we'll have some fun little legs. Kind of like that. Like with a little knee bending. That's funny. That's funny. Okay. All right, so I'll first draw all these lines with my thin pen. You could be doing this with a black crayon if you have a crayon. If you're lucky enough to have two different thickness of pens, you can do what I'm doing. I'm gonna do the outside perimeter with a thicker pen. I almost forgot his big mouth. So for his mouth, maybe something like that. You can change to a different kind of mouth. You don't have to do this same kind of mouth. And I think I'll make teeth of all different sizes. That's fun too. Again, these are silly monsters. Maybe this would represent a tongue in his mouth. Let me finish now. Let me show you what I mean by the outline. I'm just going over him, or her. Kind of make him stand out a little bit more with this thicker pen. If you want to, you can add details. Maybe you want to put a few little eyelashes there. You know, maybe you want to add more feathers. That could be interesting too. Anything that you want. Okay, so there's 2, and shall we draw the other 2? I'll just scoot this over. You can still see this. I don't know if this. Okay. Okay, so this one's fun. I have to find my pen. There it is. Okay, so again, I'm gonna just start by sketching with my pencil. I know for this blue one, I wanna leave room for legs. So when I draw the bottom of his body, or her body, it's gonna be something like this. And I also wanna leave room for horns up at the top. So just do a quick sketch to kind of figure out the placement of what you want. And again, you can make your monsters however you want to. They don't have to look like mine. I only put 1 eye on this creature, but maybe you want to put 2. So maybe an eye right here and a big silly mouth. Okay, so I kind of have it sketched out how I want it. So now I'll go over it with pen. Oh, I want to do it like a little hair or something up here to add interest. So first, I'm just going to do the outline here. And you don't have to do 6 arms and 2 feet. It can be however you want. You can put little lines on the horns if you want. I think it makes it fun for like coloring. And you can do different colors. Do a great big eye. I'm leaving a little white speck in the middle of the eye there. We'll just do kind of a happy grin. And I'm just doing some lines. Like I said, you can add fur, you can add stripes, feathers, polka dots, anything you want. When it comes to the legs, I just keep the legs simple. If you want to add a few arms, I'm going to do 4 fingers. On this one, I use 3, and maybe I'll do only 4 arms on this one. So an arm up here. Oh, I did 3 fingers on this one, so I'll do 3 fingers on the bottom arm. They're silly. If you want to add a bow, just draw a circle. And then, oh, it's almost like you have these coming out on the side. And you can draw some little lines right there. I'll hold it up closer so you can see how I did that. Like that's what the bow could look like if you want to add a bow. It's up to you whether or not you want to erase your pencil lines later. Okay. And then let's try this little guy with the wings and the horns. Okay. So this little guy right here, his head is shaped more of like a smushed circle, almost like an oval. And then his body, remember, leave room for legs. His body, he doesn't have a neck, he just kind of connects straight there. And then just some simple legs, something like that. You can add wings to any of these little monsters. Okay, so now that I have my main shape down, I'm going to outline him. So I'm just going to outline his head first. You can outline with the black crayon, that works perfectly fine. And then his little face is very simple. I'm just going to do two little solid black eyes. He kind of has a confused look on his face, just with a straight mouth. And this time the teeth are on top, like going up, like little triangles going up. And I'll add some horns. Some little stripes. Maybe I'll put the stripes closer together on these horns. And then I'm going to draw the stomach part, his torso. And then I'm just going to draw the arms. They're going to be very simple. The arms are coming out from the side of his head here, narrow at the top, and then they get wider. And then just draw some little loops to represent fingers. Do the same thing here, narrower at the top, and then it gets wider. It just attaches to the body. And then just some legs, just very simple. You can do anything you want. You could even put little like scales. Why don't we try that? Let's put some scales on his legs. Ooh, he's like a sea monster almost. Kind of alternate the scales. Okay. And I think I added wings at the last minute on this guy when I practiced him. I like the idea of wings. Just do something like that. Maybe the wing carries through this way. So it's just a suggestion of a wing back there. Do the same thing here. And carry it through down there. I forgot to outline the little monster on top with my thick pen. So I'll do both. So I'm just going to outline the perimeter. Gives them a little more like a bold presence when you outline whatever it is you're drawing with a thicker, or we call that like a heavier weighted line. You know, it stands out from the background. I think I like the scales on the legs. I haven't quite decided yet. But it's okay because we're just experimenting, making different monsters. And this is only the beginning. Now that you know what you can do, you can just make all kinds of crazy creatures for fun. Okay, and let me outline this fun one right up here. We're almost finished with part 1. Notice how the thick line really makes your subject matter stand out from the background. And I'm only doing this around the perimeter. I'm not going to outline the eye and the mouth. You can if you want to with a thicker line. Oh yeah, I did 4 fingers on this hand. So think about how you're going to want to color these in for part 2. You know, if you want to add polka dots or anything that you want. Let me move that up so you can see. Okay, so we have 4 silly monsters. If you are still drawing and creating, just keep going. I am going to stop at this point because this is the end of part 1, and you can pause the video if you are still working, but I'll meet you back for part 2. Okay, this is part 2 of the intermediate lesson called Silly Monsters. And for part 2, I'm going to be coloring in the monsters, and you might want to use crayons. I might use a mixture of crayons and watercolor paint. So if you are painting, you're going to need, I always keep a cup with water in it and a few paint brushes handy. So I think, like I said, I'll do a mixture of crayon and paint. If you haven't mixed crayon and paint before, I recommend it. Let's try it. Okay, so why don't we start? Why don't we start with this guy? And I'm gonna color him red for the most part. Ooh, that's kind of a pinky red. Violet red, like a purpley red. I can mix it though. We can mix different colors of red. I think it's neat when you add crayon underneath paint because it can look like fur. So let's see what happens if I put some red here. This is the same thing, violet red. I have a big container of crayons that I dig through here at home. Well, I think he's okay. So here's red. You can see the difference, but I think that'll still look interesting. So I'm making like fur on him. I like this guy. He has crazy fur. I'm not going to color over his eyes and his mouth with the red. Let's see what happens if I start adding some red paint here. I'll put this over here so you can see what I'm doing. Yeah, the crayon, I'm gonna be careful, try to not get it in the whites of his eyes. The crayon should show through. Don't color over his teeth. Yeah, I definitely like that mixture of crayon and paint. And if you're using crayons, that's awesome too. You don't have to paint. This this monster was the simplest to draw, but he's my favorite. I think it's his wild hair, his fur. You might have to turn your paper sometimes if you need to get around like a curved part. Sometimes that helps me. And if you wear glasses, put your glasses on so you can see the details. It's okay to turn your paper like this in different directions. So I only used a little bit of crayon, but you can see how it's coming through. The waxy part of the crayon comes through the watercolor and it has a really interesting effect, I think. I think I'm gonna leave his eyes white, the whites of his eyes white, but I will add, I think I'm gonna give him some yellow teeth. I'm just dabbing tiny bits of yellow because my red paint is very wet and it could run together, but that's okay. Yeah, so he's so simple, yet it's very effective. Maybe I'll add a little blue streak on his eyeball. Let's see how that looks. Just like a little blue right here to kind of make it look like that's the white shininess of the eye. I like that. Okay, and I'm definitely going to add blue background like this, like I did here. See how I did his eyes differently? That's why I practice, so I know like what I want to change. It's important to self-reflect after you make a piece of art, so you know what you might want to do differently the next time. See, just like you know, when you're writing essays in class or writing and you create a rough draft and then you edit and modify, and maybe sometimes you get some feedback. So that's what you have to do with art too. Let's see, so I'm not reaching across the whole table. I'll turn my paper sideways. Yeah, I like this yellow background. I guess I was gonna do it blue, but I think I like the look of the yellow with next to the red. And I could mix some other colors in too around the edge. But I just like that simple look. Like he's just like popping up into the window, like brah, a little monster. Okay. Why don't I do this monster next? Okay, and I'll show you how I might color this one with crayons and paint. So I'm gonna mix some yellow crayon in parts. And I think I'll do the same thing with, I think I'm gonna make her purple, just so you can see what she might look like purple. See if I have a soft purple in here, like a lavender. No, it's okay. I'm just gonna make a few little lines here that could be like hair. And let's just see how that changes the look of the paint. Let's see what this does if we paint this one purple. I'm just going to add a light purple. And if your paint gets too streaky and dark, you just add some water to it. Or you can even put water on the paper first before you put your paint on. And it thins out the color. And I always say too, you have to find the right balance of paint and water, especially when we're just using construction paper like this, because it's pretty thin. I do think the crayon adds an interesting effect to our little monsters. And for the horns, so I put yellow down, but I'm adding green, but the yellow will show through. And I think that's also an interesting effect. So let me hold this up closer, so you can kind of see that effect of the yellow crayon under the green paint. And I'm going to add yellow teeth or a yellow mouth. And I'll stick with the red bow. And I'm going to add blue this time in the background. You can add stripes in the background, bubbles. I'm just keeping mine solid. Right now my cat is very interested in what I'm doing. He might jump on the table. Okay if he does. I have 3 cats. I was explaining that in one of the other videos. By the way, if you have enjoyed these videos, there's more on the AESD YouTube channel. There's more summer camp art videos because this one is made for the intermediate, but I also made a whole set of videos for primary. So if you have little brothers and sisters at home, or if you would like to try out some of the other beginner videos, you can too. There's plenty. Doesn't matter what age you are, you can do any of the videos. You can be 100 years old and do the beginner videos. So I think it looks good. I would just recommend for sure painting in the background because it adds so much more than just leaving it white. And again, I think I'll put like a little streak of like a blue line on the eyeball here, just to kind of make it look there. So I do have some pencil coming through there, but I can always erase it later. Look at those guys. Color really brings them to life. I think they're hilarious. Okay. I think I have time to color one more monster. Yeah, I have time to color one more. And I'm gonna do this little one right here. He's like, it's like his mouth is open. He's saying, color me. Okay. So I think I wanna do his wings yellow. I'm just gonna do some lines here. Let's try doing something interesting in the background. What if I did like some lightning bolts that are yellow, and then I'll paint over those and let's see what happens. Some streaky lines. Let's just kind of experiment here. This one just, I'm gonna do like a green color. Just adding a little bit of green for texture, you know, that'll come through. I can even add some green here on his wings. Her wings. Okay, let's see how this looks. I'll start with yellow over here. Yeah, kind of look, I like the look of that. And then we'll do green on the body part, to the torso. You can put little shoes. You could put shoes on your monsters. Sandals, wouldn't that be funny? Whenever they have an open mouth, I'll show you like where I like to add black. You probably know. Like in where it's the open space, not the tongue, but I like to add black to make it look like it's like an open cavity, like a space. The tongue. Some black here. This is the part I was talking about. Maybe we'll do some blue on the eyelids. Just going to do teeth. And let's see how the background comes out. Okay, so I want a color that contrasts with the yellow. I do like blue a lot. So let me see what happens if I add blue. Oh yes, that's going to be interesting. It's almost like at Easter, if you've ever used crayons on hard-boiled eggs before you dye them, you can get patterns to show through. It's because there's wax. There's wax in the crayons. And I think this will be the last monster that I color in, but I'll make sure I show you. Well, you can kind of see him, and you know that you can use any colors you want. There's no wrong way. I'm just gonna scoot this over so you can see him, that little guy with the wings. But these are kind of simple and fun, and you can be as creative as you want. Look at my color running in there, but I think that has a really interesting effect. It's okay if your colors run together. It's kind of the nature of watercolors. So you're working with so much water. If you don't want that to happen, you'll want to wait, like let an area dry before painting right next to it. But for me, I think it just adds to the monsteriness of it all. Is that a word? Monstrousness. Okay, I'm closing up my paints. I like to always clean up my desk. Okay, so here we have some silly monsters, and you feel free to keep going. I'm finished, but you might need more time, and this is something you can always come back to later and add color to, because I know it is kind of a big project. But I hope you enjoyed this Silly Monsters Intermediate Part 2, and I will see you next time. See you next time.